Yeah, just wanted to start out, although the results these first 2 weeks have not gone our way. I do think that there's some encouraging things about our team right now, from a standpoint of certain aspects of how we're playing, whether it be Kirk's performance last night, the way our pass game continues to kind of, try to keep us in some football games despite doing a lot of things that negatively affect us as far as turning the football over with the fumbling issue. Our team's fight to still be an onside kick away from having a chance to win a game at a very, very tough place to go win on a short week. But there is no doubt some major, major areas of improvement from a standpoint of ball security. You just can't be -6 after 2 games, and the turnover differential goes against everything we do believe with our football philosophy. And quite honestly, we're already in the process of finding new and hopefully more results-based ways of training our players and getting back to the basics and really drilling and techniques and fundamentals of how we handle every rep we take to make sure that ball security becomes a premium.
Kevin, looks like you hit the mute. You hit the mute button on accident.
Oh, yeah.
Just lost you. Go ahead.
Said I was muted by the moderator. So whoever did that, they probably didn't like some of the things I was saying. But yeah, just, as far as our run game goes, it's definitely a huge area of focus. When you turn on the tape, it's something where you see a lot of plays where it's the old coulda, woulda, shoulda. We're one block away here or there from maybe being not only more efficient, but having more significant gains, which is what we need to find. Because right now, we need to run the football more, but our yards per carry is not justifying doing that, other than just the overall landscape of how that does help your team. But 3rd and 7+ on the road is not something that I'm going to continue to hunt by forcing things when our execution level is not what we need it to be. And that's schematics, that's player techniques and details, understanding where the run's supposed to hit, where our hat placement and body presence, on the down lineman and onto the second level needs to be. And there's examples all over the tape of that needing to improve. Defensively, our defense was just on the field far too much, got worn down, and the run defense against one of the premier running groups in the National Football League just wasn't good enough to kind of maintain and get them off the field a few times there. But once again, just far too many snaps. And then, a situation there at the end of the first half where we had a chance, even after all that had gone wrong, to still go into the locker room with a lead, and unable to finish that drive with a touchdown, with another turnover there. So I still believe in this team. I believe in our players more than ever. I believe in our coaches. And I know that my dialogue with players and coaches alike today is one of which everybody's ready to get back to work and go continue to improve. I think the silver lining of being -6, if there ever was one, in the turnover differential, would be, I know it's been popular to talk about point differential over the last year or so, still being -9 in 2 games, where a lot of teams -6 in the turnover differential. They don't have a 3-digit separation between that point differential. So that tells me there still is a lot of optimism to be had as far as if we can make the improvements. And that's an if, because we got to stop talking about it and we got to make it a focal point for our team. And that's something that we'll work towards, trying to, get our first win against a really good team coming into US Bank Stadium this next week. Injury update wise, I did want to give you guys an update on Oli Udo. He will be lost for the season with what has been diagnosed as a torn quad tendon. That is very, very unfortunate with the offseason Oli's had and his willingness to step in on a short week and compete like he did yesterday. All the guy does is work and puts his head down every single day. I'm a huge fan of Oli's, and hopefully, look forward to him making a full recovery from that injury. He'll have a procedure to fix that here in the next week or so. Don't have those details yet, but we'll be right there every step of the way with our medical staff and support of Oli as he goes through that. But very unfortunate there. As far as some of the other injuries are concerned, really not a lot. A lot of the guys that were dinged up in the game were able to return. Josh Metellus, Jordan Hicks. And then our hope is we can progress both Christian Darrisaw and Marcus Davenport to be available this next week. Just lastly, before I open it up to questions, I did want to just touch on one other thing in regards to Alex Madison and some of the really what I deem unacceptable and offensive messages that he received through social media last night. And I just want to first and foremost express my support for Alex, someone that I deeply, deeply care about in our locker room amongst all of our players. But having a chance to speak to Alex today, wanted to check in with him, see how he was doing. I know this is not just an isolated incident just from last night for Alex and other professional athletes alike. I just don't see that there's any place for it. Racism has no place, regardless of how upset someone may be with fantasy football output or a player's performance. It's just unacceptable in any way, shape, or form, really, in our society, but especially in regards to the treatment of professional athletes and our players. I'm fully behind Alex, and I know his teammates are as well, and this organization is as well, and he knows that we're going to do all that we can to support him, but did want to make note of that. But with that, I'll open it up to you guys for questions.
Thanks, Kevin. We'll start with Chris Long, Andrew Kramer, and Kevin Seifert.
Kevin, you mentioned that a lot of it was just the defense being on the field so much, but do you worry after a performance rushing wise like the Eagles did that somewhat exposes a weakness or gives, quote unquote, someone the book on how to run against you guys?
Yeah, Chris, I think that the book on that's going to require similar personnel to maybe having a quarterback like Jalen Hurts and a run game built around the zone read where your quarterback's a factor on every play. And then an offensive line that, man for man across that offensive line is one of the best groups in our league. But yeah, I think schematically we're always going to be trying to do some things to help out those guys in any way, shape, or form. Hopefully getting Marcus back, with some more significant snaps or take the load off of maybe that outside backer group, or when we shift him inside, his physicality and the way he can impact the game is something that we're looking forward to seeing hopefully soon. But then across the board, just the snap counts do bleed into each other when it starts getting later on in the game on a short week, when guys did just play a game 4 days ago. So I think a lot of that adds up to we've got to find answers and make sure we're fixing things, technique, fundamentals, schematically that we can fix as coaches and players. But just look to improve. And I think it's a total team effort playing complementary football that my hope is that we're able to do that.
Hey, Kevin, just following up with the O-line with Garrett Bradbury, is the injured reserve at all an option for him, or what's your expectation with him?
Yeah, I'm hoping not. We've got some positive early on news on Garrett. We'll see how he kind of handles some treatment over the weekend and see what his practice participation can look like next week. But I would say that it's a real possibility for Garrett to have a chance to go next week. But all that will be determined based upon what Tyler and Uriah and his staff and the doctors think as far as what's best for Garrett.
Yeah, Kevin, I was going to ask you about the frequency of your running game. I think you referenced it earlier about, I think you said yards per carry is not justifying the landscape. So is it simply a matter of you're not getting the production to run more often than you are, or is it more to it than that? Or how would you kind of explain the sort of the lower number of rushing carries that you've had this year?
Yeah, I think specifically speaking for last night, Kevin, there was probably another 4 or 5 plays called with some runs where we either threw a ball out to Justin as kind of a run solution, an opportunity to get him a touch. if he's got some space out there. Didn't work out on the play. It was actually the first run called of the night. And then there were some other scenarios where, built upon the scenario of the look of the defense, whether it's premier to run the ball, or if it's going to be one of those opportunities where we can maybe get some one-on-ones or some single high coverage, we might choose to throw in that moment based upon checking the play at the line of scrimmage and how our system's built. So overall, the numbers, and I know the 9 carries, when you have the turnovers, especially on your, the second run of the night called there, we put the ball on the ground and that's a turnover. That's a chance to maybe stack some runs there. But in general, Kevin, I think, we've got to find ways to, get more 3, 4, 5 yard consistent hits. I think we had 12 or 13, what we call get back on track plays last night, which normally will lead to, better chances than most of 3 and outs type of situations. And, we were still 6 of 10 on third down last night, converted some long ones, including the long touchdown. So what I'm really trying to gauge right now is, the scenario where I do feel very strongly about our passing attack, both the quick game rhythm passing, getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands and putting it in play to different playmakers all over the field, knowing that we can move the football and at least sustain that way. My hope is that we can really mix in, and mix in a lot more runs into the calls. And I think how we'll be defended moving forward based upon our run pass numbers right now will equal a lot more, hopefully conducive looks to run the football. And then we got to go do it. It's not a matter of, it can look great on a chalkboard with great angles and, the scheme can look good, but we got to go do it and execute those techniques and fundamentals. Across the board, it seems to be 1 or 2 players on a play here and there. And instead of it being a 4, 5, 6 yard run at a minimal, it's more closer to 1, 2, maximum of 3 in some of those scenarios. And when you're trying to be versatile with personnel groupings, but yet still move at a clip and a tempo to help those 6th, 7th, or 8th linemen maybe in the game against some tough matchups, it becomes a question you got to ask yourself. Knowing that I'll get asked the question about the number of rushing attempts, my ultimate goal is to move the football and try to score points and overcome those turnovers, which make it more of a, I don't want to say dire need, but more of a necessity to have success on that drive, however we see fit. But overall, we're not going to abandon the run. We've got to run the football more. It'll help our whole entire team and, our whole entire offense to not have to overcome so much. So definitely a main focal point here for me and our staff and our players moving forward.
Next up, we'll do Dave, Matthew, and Alec.
Kevin, what do you envision for kind of practicing that ball security or, extra time sort of addressed for that next week? Is it a matter of carving out additional time on the field, or what would that actually look like?
Yeah, Dave, it will be. It's going to be additional time on the field, which is something we already do. You guys have seen that throughout the different phases of training camp in the spring and even the game week preparation. But we're going to do more of that, and then also really challenging our look teams defensively to go at the football. Any chance you can to punch, hammer, rake, try to get that ball out and simulate what we're seeing in the games. A lot of these, Brandon Powell's and Alex's first and second fumble, where, the second one was erased by a penalty, but both of those were really going to the ground, where, ball security tends to be something that you can be great at all the way through the down, offhand cover in traffic, 5 points of pressure. But when you do go to the ground, the natural feel is to, maybe brace yourself or possibly not know where that extra defender is coming in at the last moment. And I know in Brandon Powell's case, that's his first fumble, I think, in his football career carrying the ball. So not something where you really say to yourself, that's an ongoing thing with that player, but it's now a team thing, Dave. It's now every time you hold the football, whether you're a quarterback, receiver, tight end, running back, punt returner, kick returner, you're holding the livelihood of our organization in your hands, and that needs to be justified with how we go about our preparation for these games. And like I told you guys last night, that's a huge thing that is on me, to make sure that I'm delivering the message to not only our team but our coaches, and how we're coaching that up across our staff, and absorbing that as players.
Hey, Kevin, could you take us through kind of what happened on the Jordan Addison touchdown, just how that works? It looked like Kirk was going to throw it quickly and then stopped and went to the backside of that play. But just kind of how did that come about that Addison had that opportunity?
Yes, we've run that concept before, front side, Matthew, where we're really simulating like we're going to throw a quick screen out there and trying to get the defense to engage. I liked that call in that moment just because of the snap in and snap out, 1, 2, sometimes 3 defenders responsible for Justin. So put Jordan on the backside, allow Kirk to kind of simulate that, see if we can get defenders to engage, possibly get KJ down the sideline or TJ down the middle. But there was so many defenders on that side of the field. It was built in a way where if that happened, we would isolate with good leverage and a chance to get vertical on the backside. Actually had CJ Ham in there for protection. He helped kind of Ed on that right side solidify what was then a great premier step up in the pocket, quarterback movement, and launch for Kirk, which was a huge play in the game, I thought, by our guys. And that was a good example of all 11 guys executing and something really good happening, even against, even in tough circumstances. But a big play in the game to help us get back in it.
Yeah, hey Kevin. Just want to ask about B-Flow's game plan in the first half specifically. Like, how happy were you with what they constructed and what you saw just in terms of the disguise and some of the drop 8 stuff?
Yeah, I'm sure, Alec, you noticed we were kind of in a different complete structure than we had been in. Kind of more of a, that 5 across safety look or 5 across DB look with a bunch of movement and a bunch of kind of, moving parts to kind of be able to handle almost like triple option football, where you're trying to get movement along the line to stop the run, then have a cutback player for the back, then have a quarterback keeper player, but then still have coverage principles to handle the RPOs as well. So a lot went into it. I thought early on in the game, you saw a little bit of the frustration from the other side while they were trying to kind of figure out what was going on. And that's where, the hope was we would not turn the football over and be able to sustain and get some points to hopefully try to get a lead in that game on a short week and maybe force them to be a little bit less relying on their run game and more on the pass game. And then we can settle into, our plan. But ultimately, just didn't do enough, to overcome those turnovers. And then their snap counts got high and tried to make some adjustments with how we were playing it. But the Eagles did a good job kind of adjusting and figuring out, different ways to possibly limit the effect of some of those looks. And they started leaning on us a little bit up front with that offensive line and got, Swift going downhill pretty good.
We'll go to Mike Max and maybe a chance for one more after that, but we're facing the clock here. So Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, and just along the lines of Alexander Madison again, is it common for guys to get, how do you handle it? Do you track social media? Do you see who's getting on who? How does that work at your level that you try to monitor what goes on that way?
Yeah, I don't have the ability to really track any of that. It's more of, I know we have some folks that help our players out with that. And I know the NFLPA and all that. The players have some good resources and support, and we like to think we've got quite a few of those things here in-house for them. But that's really a scenario where, Alex, let me know pretty early this morning that had taken place and how he was feeling about it. And then I was, able to touch base with him and, really just give my support of him and let him know how I felt about it, which, I did share with you guys as well. And that he had my support wholeheartedly. I just really, really unfortunate and, not something that, especially when race, gets involved in the negative comments just about the football or whatever it may be, or, something that happens in a game. you know, that's incredibly unfortunate. And that's where my role, Mike, is just to make sure that the player knows that I support him, what I feel about it from a standpoint of knowing what they're going through. And that the fact that it's not an isolated event for Alex it makes it even more so something that I want to make sure he knows that I'm aware of, you know, what that means for him and help him work through it.